Welcome to Charlotte's Story Time. Today I'll be reading Chapter 4 of All of a Kind Family by Sydney Taylor. Who cares if it's bedtime? Mama's youngest brother, Hyman, had neither wife nor children of his own, so he came frequently to Mama's house to share in the life of the family. Winter or summer, his favorite place would be before the kitchen stove. With his hands locked behind his back and toes turned out, he would sway his short, stocky body from side to side. His jolly red face was shaped like the moon and shone just as brightly. Once, Gertie had asked him if he scrubbed it awful hard to make it so shiny. He had roared with good-natured laughter and then assured her that he never washed his face at all, that he had just been born that way. Tonight, as usual, Uncle Hyman stayed for supper. He ate his favorite meal of 6 hard-boiled eggs and half a loaf of sour rye bread spread thickly with butter. Supper over, Hyman loosened his belt and gave his stomach several contented pats. Knowing that money was not plentiful in the household, he not only insisted upon paying for his meal, but distributed pennies to the delighted children as well. "Now I'll have an extra penny to give the library lady on Friday," said Sarah. The next day, Gertie and Charlotte went to Miss Blumberg's candy store to spend Uncle Hyman's pennies. "You still have the pennies, Charlotte?" "Oh, you silly, you've asked me about 1,000,000 times. Of course I have them." Charlotte uncurled the fingers of her right hand and showed Gertie 2 pennies lying warm and moist in her palm. When they reached the candy store, the 2 little girls stood before the glass cases so full of chewy and sucking delights, and could not make up their minds. It was most important that they get something exactly right for tonight's fun in bed. It was hard to choose when everything looked so tempting. From where she sat on a high stool in the corner of her shop, Miss Blumberg looked at them over the top of her glasses. "Ah," she thought to herself, "they'll take their time. Well, let them enjoy themselves." She bent her head once again to the paper she was reading. Gertie pointed to the chocolate-covered peanut bars. "Oh, look! Indian bars!" "No," Charlotte replied at once. "You get too little. We'd finish in no time." "Licorice drops take a long time to eat. Look how big they are." "Maybe." Charlotte hesitated for a moment and then shook her head. "No, they won't do. The pieces will all be the same." They looked at the red cherry hearts, the yellow and orange chicken corn candy, and the different colored jelly beans. "Charlotte, half a penny jelly beans and half a penny chicken corn. That will be a whole lot of candy." "But we like the black jelly beans the best, and we can't ask Miss Blumberg to pick out only black ones for us. You know we hate the white ones, and we always seem to get mostly white ones whenever we buy them. No, let's not take jelly beans." Gertie's suggestion had given Charlotte an idea. "Miss Blumberg," she called out, "could we buy 1/4 cent's worth of candy?" "Woe is me! Haven't I got enough trouble giving you half a penny this and half a penny that? No, darling, for less than half a penny I can't sell." Charlotte sighed as she turned back to the cases. It would have been so nice to have 4 different kinds of candies, all for 1 penny. She and Gertie continued their examinations. One by one, they talked over each kind only to reject it. Lemon drops you could only suck. Caramels had to be chewed so hard and so long. Chocolate pennies melted too quickly in your mouth. The children considered and considered. Suddenly, Charlotte saw the little people made out of chewy, chocolate-colored candy. "Gertie," she cried happily, "why didn't we notice them before? Chocolate babies!" "Goody!" Gertie was equally pleased. Now that this troublesome problem was over, they were ready to get on with the spending of the second penny. With the bag of precious chocolate babies held tightly in Charlotte's hand, they walked to Mr. Bash's grocery store. Mr. Bash's store was right under Mama's front room. When the children practiced on the piano, their sounds came through the ceiling. At such times, Mr. Bash often wished they would take themselves and their piano somewhere else, but he liked the children well enough when they were not practicing, and came forward to greet them smilingly. He wore a little black skull cap on top of his white hair, and all the time he talked, he smoothed his silky white beard. "Hello," he said in Yiddish. Mr. Bash spoke no English. "What does Mama want today?" "Oh, we've come to buy something for ourselves," Charlotte told him, and she held up her penny. "And what are you going to buy for that penny?" "We thought we'd like some crackers, the broken kind." The open cracker barrel held in a most amazing jumble of broken crackers. No need to worry here about making a choice. A scoop from the barrel and into a paper bag went a tantalizing assortment. The children turned over their penny to Mr. Bash and prepared to depart with their bagful. "Wait a minute, children," Mr. Bash called. He walked over to the back of the store, where he kept slabs of smoked salmon. He called it lox, and cut off 2 pieces of moist, salty skin. This was a rare treat. The children sat down on the stoop in front of their house and sucked away at the bits of smoked salmon, which still clung to the skin. After, they would be very thirsty, but right now they were enjoying themselves greatly. "Good, isn't it?" Grady said between noisy sucks. When they had chewed up every scrap of fat and fish, they threw the skins away and remembered once more their bag of goodies. Charlotte tumbled the whole lot into her lap, and both children looked at the pile with deep satisfaction. "My, it's such a lot," Grady breathed. "Oh, couldn't we have a taste now? Just a little teeny taste?" Charlotte was equally tempted, so they shared a broken cracker between them. And then it only seemed right that they should taste the chocolate babies too. They ate one of them. One taste led to another, and pretty soon a second piece of cracker, plus a second chocolate baby, had disappeared. "We'd better put everything away, or we'll be eating it all up," Charlotte decided. Everything went back into the bags. "Will Mama let us take the bags to bed, Charlotte?" "Of course not. I'm going to hide them." "Where?" "Under the pillows on our bed. No one would ever think of looking there." They trotted upstairs. Mama was busy over the kitchen stove, so she'd never noticed Charlotte slipping into the bedroom. The goodies were tied into one of Papa's large red handkerchiefs. Paper bags rattled so. And the handkerchief was tucked under the large feather pillows on their bed. Now they only had to wait until bedtime. Bedtime came early for Mama's girls. The children were sent to bed at the same time, regardless of age. Mama had found that to be much the best way for all. In the first place, the children had no feeling of separation from each other, as they would if they went to bed at different times. And it meant that Mama could have a few quiet hours for reading or knitting, or even just chatting with Papa without being disturbed by her little ones. As for the children, bedtime was something to which they looked forward. Bedtime was when Ella and Sarah, who slept together, built their imaginary house and decorated the beautifully rich and colorful make-believe rooms. Bedtime was when Charlotte made up fanciful stories to tell, or thought up games to play with her bedfellow, Gertie. Bedtime was when Henny planned some special mischief she could carry on the next day in school or at home. Planned all by herself, because she did not like sharing a bed with anyone. They slept, all 5 of them, in the one room, and that made of plenty of company in the dark. And what was the best of all, Mama never minded their talking to each other. "It's early enough, and they're resting their bodies anyway," she said. They'll fall asleep when they get tired. Come on, let's get under the covers quickly. It's freezing in here tonight, Charlotte said, as she and Gertie ran towards their bed. Where's the candy? Gertie asked when they were settled. Here, Charlotte said. Before Mama came in here to fold up the bedspreads, I sneaked in and put the stuff on the floor. She leaned over her side of the bed, poked about for a bit, and came up with the red handkerchief bundle. She laid the bundle between them. Mama was coming in now with the heated flatterons. They slapped their hands over the handkerchief and lay still, quivering with mischief and excitement. It would be awful if Mama were to remove that heap of goodies. Gertie started to giggle, but a nudge from Charlotte soon stopped her. Mama went about putting the irons first into Ella's and Sarah's bed, next into Henny's, and now she was coming over to them. The room was in darkness, save for the gas light which shone from the kitchen through the opened bedroom door. Lucky for them. One look at their guilty faces, and Mama would have known that something was up. But Mama suspected nothing. She put the iron wrapped in its towel at their feet and their toes stretched out deliciously to meet the warmth. Tucking in the feather bed, Mama said good night to all and went out, shutting the bedroom door behind her. The fun could begin at last, Charlotte directed, because the game was hers. First we take a chocolate baby, and we eat only the head. They bit off the heads and chewed away contentedly. Now the feet. That was hard. The tiny feet were very close to the legs, but they did the best they could. Let's gobble the rest up all together. That was a good order. They gobbled away. Charlotte continued. A cracker now. They fished about in the dark. We'll take a small bite just to find out what kind it is. They each took a small bite. Mine is a lemon snap, I think, Gertie said. What's yours? Mine's a ginger. We'll have to nibble along the side of this piece of cracker, as if we're mice. And we have to do it until I say stop. So they nibbled, and pretty soon Gertie exclaimed, My piece is all gone. So's mine, Charlotte told her. She had enjoyed nibbling so much she had forgotten to change the order. That means we'll have to take another cracker. So they took another cracker. The tasting bite showed to their delight that they had chosen the same kind, chocolate snaps. First, we're to count up to 10 before we begin eating. They counted slowly. Now, continued Charlotte, we must each take a teensy-weensy bite and chew 5 times. That was done. The rest of the cracker has to be chewed for 25 counts. They bit and chewed while Charlotte counted very fast, because crackers become nothing in your mouth quickly, and it would never do if the eating was over before the counting. Gertie felt anxious. Her piece of cracker was small, but luckily it came out all right. Charlotte had lots of ideas. With the next cracker, they had to make a circling movement 10 times around in front of their open mouths, and then pop the cracker in. But they were not to bite into it. Oh no, that cracker had to be taken out of their mouths again, and the circle repeated 10 times. After that, they would eat the cracker as they pleased, and so the game was played till there wasn't a single thing left. They had not been interrupted even once throughout the whole time, because their sisters were busy too. Ella and Sarah were decorating the pink room in the make-believe house. They had been having a good deal of trouble deciding about the placing of the furniture. Henny was fretting over a new trouble. She had not done her homework for several days. Teacher had given her a note that Mama was to sign, because Teacher wanted to make sure that Mama knew about this. Henny was trying to figure out some way of getting Mama to sign the note without having to take a spanking too. Suddenly Gertie said, I'm thirsty. Me too, said Charlotte. She sat up in bed and called, Ma, May we have some water? Ma brought the water, wondering at the unusual request. She found the reason why the next morning when she made up the cracker-crumbed bed. There was no game for Charlotte and Gertie the next night. We'll just have to stick to candy from now on, Charlotte decided. Stick to candy they did. Often and often the game was played, and Mama never knew. Or at least they thought. Thank you for joining in with Charlotte's Storytime. Hope you enjoyed Chapter 4 of All of a Kind Family. If you enjoyed this chapter, be sure to check out other chapters of All of a Kind Family and another book, Charlotte's Web.